Hey everybody, Blind Man Travels here. I appreciate you all taking the time to join me here, and we're just getting started now. So hopefully you should all be seeing this. I'm just making sure it shows up on my end here on my phone. So let me just double check that real quick. Okay, we're good. We're started with Japanese punctuality here. So let's just get started here. As you come in, of course, feel free to uh, give a comment. Just let me know if you can hear me okay, if you do come in here. Anyways, let's just without further ado, let's get started here. And as some of you start coming in, we'll just go from there. So first of all, let's just go over some practical information about Japan that helps with travel planning. This is just information that I used when I planned my travels, and it should hopefully help you um, if you do decide to go to Japan yourself. So, this is a map of Japan to scale with the eastern United States. And that should be showing at the proper latitudes too. Hey, Cap, thanks for coming in. Good, sir. Nice to see you. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you, sir. Nice to have you. Okay, so yeah, this is the map of Japan to scale with the United States. So Japan is not that big when compared to the United States. In fact, it's only somewhere between the size of the sizes of California and Montana. Um, and the weather patterns on the east side of Japan are not too dissimilar than the weather patterns that you would see on the east coast of the United States. So, for example, the northernmost island up here, which is called Hokkaido, um, is probably more like New England if you compare it. The weather patterns are very similar. Um, the other thing too, though, about Hokkaido, since it's far more sparsely populated than the rest of the country, it is advertised a lot when you see a lot of food products like dairy or potatoes or corn that they're raised in Hokkaido, and that's supposed to be a sign of that's the good stuff. So I would say that Hokkaido is the closest thing that Japan has internally to a breadbasket, to use that kind of term. And of course, if you go further down, imagine Tokyo here, that has weather patterns. In fact, Tokyo, Nagoya, Kyoto, and Osaka don't really have a lot of variation between them uh, in general. There might be some changes, but it is not a whole lot of variation because they're so packed and so close together. So Tokyo is much like Washington D.C. in weather patterns. So it's pretty temperate. It might get snow in the wintertime, but it isn't very deep or anything like that. Same goes down to Osaka here. Further south you go, and you go all the way to Okinawa. That's kind of like the Japanese version of Hawaii. So just think of it that way. Um, because it's this little island, this little island retreat that you can fly to from Tokyo in a few hours. Um, so that's usually where Japanese people like to go within the country as one of the most popular vacation getaways. So hopefully that helps with understanding that. If you look at the east coast of, or if you look at the west coast, of course, it since it is on the west coast and it is between the Korean Peninsula, it does tend to get a lot more snow on the western side because of the presence of the Japanese Alps here. So further north and further west, you're going to get more snowfall. Further east and further south, you're not going to get more snowfall. So hopefully that explains that. Let me just do everything here. Give me just a sec here. So that is that. I'm just pivoting here. Give me one moment here. So of course, I was a kid in the 1980s. So I grew up when in the era when Japan was the hotness as far as tech is concerned. So that would explain some of my interest in Japan and why I got hooked on Japan. As a matter of fact, here, just transitioning here to the next screen. There we go. That's the 1986 Toyota Camry. And in fact, that's the kind of car that my mother drove. Not one too dissimilar from this grayish one over here, although it's probably more of a tannish color. Um, but I remember riding in that car, and I bet you that car was manufactured in uh, Nagoya, as is one other thing that was famously manufactured in Nagoya as well, which was the Mitsubishi A6M0 during World War II. That was also manufactured in Nagoya, and it was a key city of industry that was bombed by the Allies during the war. So part of the reason why I'm going over this is because it helped me to know about and understand Japan um, before I actually ever went there. So hopefully that helps other people to understand. Yeah, I think it's kind of important to understand where you're going. So let me just check one more thing here out. In the meantime, here I'm just going to go over some more basics here. Um, so the other thing that was influential in my childhood that got me interested in Japan was I got the Nintendo Game Boy, which all the console on the back said made in Japan, and all the game cartridges also said made in Japan. So this piqued my interest. I didn't know much about Japan at the time. Obviously, I was a kid at the time, so I really did not know a lot. But I found that really interesting. So that really did pique my interest in Japan. Um, when I was younger. Now, as far as Japan is concerned, let me just pull this up here. I think there are Japanese movies that you can watch to help you understand Japan. But if you are looking for content in English that helps you to understand Japanese culture, even if it's not 100% the most historically accurate, there are a few movies that I think were really helpful for me to understand Japan um, as a culture. Obviously, I've read lots of books about Japan, and I was a history major in college too. But these are the movies that really helped me get a grasp on Japanese culture. So the first movie, of course, maybe let me find it here. So the first movie, of course, being The Last Samurai. Again, it's not 100% historically accurate because it's believed that the last samurai was Japanese. Now, I have a theory that the spirit of the samurai is still in Japan. It's just taken up in the salaryman of modern day Japan. Let me see, ANCAP, what you typed in here. Okay, good. Thank you, ANCAP. But yeah, that helped to understand the idea of Bushido, as well as it helps to understand how Japan was able to modernize in such a way without giving up its own cultural identity. Because Japan's very unique in the world because it's the one country that I know of in Asia that was never colonized by European power, unlike China or Vietnam or Malaysia or India or any of those other countries. And I think that really does explain it because Japan had been cut off for over 250 years from contact with the West, primarily with Europeans, because the United States was not a country at the time. But it wasn't until this guy here. I put that search in here not to confuse it with the guy from Friends, but Commodore Matthew Perry uh, engaged in gunboat diplomacy with Japan in the 1850s to get Japan to open up to the West. So that was part of what was happening because before that, just find it. I'm not sure if I can spell this out right here. That's that guy right there is Tokugawa Ieyasu. I think that's Ieyasu. No, that's probably this dude right here. That's Tokugawa Ieyasu. And he was the first person to unify Japan's military or its secular power under one leadership now, and it was in, and they settled in what was called Edo at the time, which is what we know as modern day Tokyo. And they actually had a clever system because all the lords, the daimyo that swore fealty to the Tokugawa shogunate, had to spend a year in their holdings and then come back to Edo for a year. And then they'd have to flip and flop. So the next year, half of the people, half of the daimyo that were out in the countryside uh, with their holdings came back to Tokyo, and the other half went out to the countryside with their holdings. And they flip and flop it like that for that particular point of time period of stability. But meanwhile, the spiritual center of the country was in Kyoto with the emperor. So, as a matter of fact, that brings me to the next point. So, the guy that actually is credited with rebuilding of Japan or the modernization of Japan was called the was called the uh, was called the Meiji was Emperor Meiji, and what he ended up doing, it wasn't really anything that he particular did by himself, but it was the Meiji Restoration is what it was called. And what that means then is that power was consolidated in a constitutional monarchy eventually, where the emperor was considered the leader of Japan. And that brings me to the next point here. So, the next movie that I find that is really helpful to understand Japan, and this is a movie that historians obviously uh, dump all over, but it does a really good job of showing things from the Japanese point of view. Was the movie Pearl Harbor. Specifically, forget about all the fiction with the three-way romance triangle or anything along those lines. But the one thing the that the movie did really a good job of showing was that it did a good job of showing the of showing how the military leadership under Admiral Yamato had to uh, had to mastermind the bombing attack on Pearl Harbor, um, even though he warned the leadership of Japan, in this case, the prime minister, which was Hideki Tojo, who was a military general as well as the prime minister, uh, warned him that this was going to rouse the sleeping giant of the United States. And he was absolutely accurate to that fact. But the reason why the Japanese felt that they had no course of action but to do that was because of the fact that Japan was cutting off all their resources at the time. So let me just see if I can pull this up here. Give me just one moment here. So Japan at the time was getting getting much of their oil resources, specifically oil, from the United States at the time. And we did an all-out oil embargo, and eventually we froze their assets in the United States, which is what led them to war. The reason why the Americans had done that, though, was because of the Japanese invasion of China. Um, so, as a matter of fact, talking about modern day Japan, one of the biggest concerns about modern day Japan is if there's ever any conflict in the region with China, which, by the way, China is taking a playbook from what the Japanese did during World War II with an island hopping campaign. If the Chinese go really aggressive in the region, one of the biggest concerns that Japan has is that they'll be cut off because most of their oil comes from the Middle East, so it gets shipped from the Persian Gulf through India, and it goes past the straits here by Singapore. And this is some of the most congested waterways in the world, right through here. But it goes through there and goes past Taiwan, past Japan, past China, mainland China, before it gets to import in Japan. So I hope that helps you to understand that, because that's a big concern for modern day Japan as well. Is the fact that that they're at risk of having their oil, especially their oil reserves, cut off because of China being belligerent in the region. So Japan, of course, is moving slowly to building up a military, which they said that they would not do after the end of the war. Um, it's even written into the revised constitution. So that brings me into the next movie here, which I think really helps to understand Japan. This is actually one of my favorite movies here. Just share this again. So it is this movie, Emperor from 2012, with Tommy Lee Jones playing as Douglas MacArthur. Now, Douglas MacArthur was was an arrogant SOB, and he had presidential ambitions, which is why every time you he he did anything, he had lots of pictures taken for publicity with, as portrayed here, his corncob pipe. But he had presidential ambitions in 1948, so that's why he was doing all these things. But if you watch the movie Emperor, there were actually some questions about whether the emperor, in this case, Emperor Hirohito, who is the grandson of Emperor Meiji, by the way, was going to be held to account for the actions leading up to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And we're still not 100% sure how much direct involvement he had in that, if he knew more than he knew. But it is it is something where the decision was made in the interest of stability and peace in the region, and also given the concerns by the Soviet Union and the communists in China in the region at the time in the 40s. It was decided that we were not going to remove the emperor from power. So we had to. So we ended up determining that he had no direct input on what his what the militarists and his government did leading up to the bombing of Pearl Harbor, as well as the invasion of the Philippines, where MacArthur had been stationed. So that is a very important point. The other movie I forgot to mention, there's two versions of this one, but I like the later version myself. This is the 2019 version of the movie Midway. And the reason why I like this one, obviously, is because it shows how Japan, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, they had the Doolittle raid on Tokyo, where Jim Doolittle and his volunteer force launched in bombers from aircraft carriers, were supposed to bomb Tokyo and then bail out over China, hopefully to be rescued by Free China. Unfortunately, the aircraft carriers could not get as close because they were spotted by the Japanese. So they decided to launch a few hours early, which means that they were going to be landing or bailing out in occupied China instead of free China. Um, but it it dealt a blow, even though it wasn't a large attack. It didn't really do a whole lot at the time in 1942. It did prove to the Japanese that their homeland was not safe from the Americans at the time, no matter many how many islands surrounded them, and it forced them to go on the offensive, which led up to the Midway. And at Midway, there were four Japanese carriers that were trying to annex the island of Midway, which is to the west of Hawaii. And the Americans had three carriers plus the island of Midway to scramble fighters from. And of course, they were going up against Jap- uh, Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, which were probably some of the best designed and engineered aircraft uh, of the early war years. So that's one thing that people do kind of miss out. So one thing, and I think this has got a bunch to do with the Bushido Code, which is a big part of, or was a big part of the samurai lifestyle. Was that when Japanese people do something, they totally dedicate to doing it. So that's why you see, even today in modern day Japan, you will see a ramen chef that is going to focus totally on making the best bowl of ramen completely. So they're going to spend all the hours, all their dedication, all their focus, get really, really good at making ramen. You see this with sushi chefs. You see it with the art of calligraphy, or making bonsai trees, or anything else that Japanese people do, especially for their jobs. you can say that they get robotic about it, but really it's about they focus in on that to the point of of being absolutely intense about it. So on the good side for us as travelers with that though is that we get to actually really enjoy some of the culinary experiences that can be had from that. Some of those experiences are not very expensive. As a matter of fact, let's just get into a little bit more practicals of going to Japan. Let me just pull up this website here. So during the 80s, the Japanese currency was strong. So, but now, especially as of recent years, within the past couple of years, since the whole since the whole COVID thing happened, um, the currency has gotten really weak. It was kind of weak when I went there the first time, and 2019 is still pretty weak. So if you look at this, this is $1 to Japanese yen. So it used to be you could round, move over the decimal point and get away with that. So $1, you could say $1 American was about 100 Japanese yen. But now it is more like $1 is 157. It's fluctuating. So sometimes it would be 158 or 160. At one point in time, when I was over there, I saw it at 160. Um, but yeah, it's fluctuating still. And I suspect before the end of the year, the the Japanese bank is probably going to set some fiscal policy for that. So speaking of the currency, and I'm going to do a video probably more about the currency later. Um, but I do happen to have a big wad of the or a big bag of the coins because the coins they give lots of change in Japan. You kind of cannot help it when you go over there because it isn't like American dollars. So you are going to get lots of coins when you go over there. But let me just see if I can bring this up here. Because I still think I have some cash here too. I'm not sure how much I have in paper money. And the Japanese, they're changing the currency too. So as of right now, this is the only thing I could pull out. But this is the smallest denomination of the currency at this particular point in time. Let me fix that. It's upside down to you. Okay. Can you read that? Don't pay attention to any of the markings other than the numbers. That's the most important part to pay attention to. That says that says 1,000 yen. Howdy, someone somewhere. Nice to see you. Appreciate you for coming by. I'm just going over some Japan historical information and talking about my experiences traveling in Japan. But I was just showing off the currency. This is the smallest paper currency. So this is, like I said, is akin to a $10 bill in America. Although, so that's 1,000 yen. Although, if I bring up the currency conversion website again, let me bring that back up here. Let me bring up, instead of $1 American, let's bring up $10 American now. So that's actually more like 1,573. So now that's more like 15 Japanese. So you would take, so what you would do then, and I don't have the coins with me right now, but you would take this, and you'd probably take if you're paying somebody in cash, that you'd probably take this plus a 500 yen coin. I'm trying to line this up here. It's kind of hard when you're blind, but yeah, you take a 500 and then a 100 yen coin to make it up so that they give you the least amount of change here. Yeah, it used to be ANCAP. It used to be, it's not that way anymore, but that used to be when you went over there a few years ago, you could do rough math and say that 100 yen is like 1 USD, but they ain't quite that way anymore. So definitely that is the case. As a matter of fact, Japan is, I'm going to pull up the website here. Let me just see if I have it here before I should present it. Okay, there we go. Okay, shut up. I'm gonna make that go away. So these are some of the new currencies. This is like the 10,000, so that's like basically $100. But it has this strip here, which is supposed to improve with anti-counterfeiting. Also, this guy's supposed to have smaller of his image in the space in the middle. But yeah, those are what the newer currencies are going to look like. So it's a total redesign. So it's actually forcing businesses, especially small businesses, to go cashless more, because one thing you have to know about Japan, if you go So you go to a small mom and pop restaurant, like a ramen shop. You don't place the order with the person. There's a vending machine there. So you go and put your order for what you want in the vending machine, and it prints out a ticket which you present to the person at the counter, and then they give you your bowl of ramen or whatever you ordered. But the vending machines are going to have to be updated to work with the new currency. So a lot of the smaller businesses that are having harder costs to offset are going to start going paperless more, which might not be such a bad thing. So yeah, um, that might not be such a bad thing because the other thing Japan has here, and this is something I actually like. Let me pull this up here. Um, this is actually from the Japan Rail Company, in fact, JR East. So different regions of Japan have different IC cards, but they all work the same. Basically, an IC card is a card that you use. It's like a card with a chip in it that you tap onto the system, and when you go into the turnstiles for the public transit. So all those videos that you saw me make where I was at the turnstiles, as a matter of fact, here's a video. This might be kind of old, but I'll play it anyway, just for the kicks.
Suica allows you to pay for trains, buses, and shopping with a single card.
Which way was it? That way?
Yeah, which way is it?
It's my first time in Japan, but Tokyo's trains and buses have so many routes and lines. It's so complicated. I have to buy a new ticket at a ticket machine every time I change lines, and the fares are completely different depending on the destination. Isn't there an easier way to travel?
The Suica card is all you need. Suica is a smart card from JR East that can be used not only for trains and buses, but for shopping too. You don't need to check the fare for your destination every single time. This card is all you need to board the train. Let's start by purchasing a Suica at a ticket vending machine. A 500 yen deposit is included in your first purchase. Now that you've purchased a Suica, let's try boarding the train. Simply touch the Suica card to the reader at the ticket gate to proceed through it quickly and smoothly. You don't need to check the fare for your destination, so Suica makes traveling easier than ever. Once you've used up the money on the card, you can recharge it at any ticket vending machine and use it over and over again. You can even use Suica for shopping. Many kiosks and convenience stores accept Suica for payments.
This is what I'm talking about, cashless
With
payment.
Suica, troublesome transfers to different lines are smooth and easy, making your travels much simpler. Try Suica on your visit to Japan.
Okay, yeah. So let me change this back here. So as a matter of fact, you're right, ANCAP. You're right about that. So it would be one US penny, would actually be less now because of the currency exchange. But you're absolutely right on the money there. And yes, this is always very interesting for sure. But as a matter of fact, here, I'm not going to show off the number on the back here because this is unique. But this is my Suica card that I purchased the first time I went to Japan in 2019. So that was what I used. Now I've paired it up with my phone, with my iPhone, so that I can use that, the NFC on my phone, to tap in and tap out instead, which makes it a little bit more convenient. In fact, in the recent years where there's been chip shortages and issues along those particular lines, um, they've had difficulty with producing the cards anymore recently, so there have been shortages. So it's always recommended to hold on to yours. If you compare it to your phone, to your whatever wallet you have, that's great. Now the only downside is if you're using an Android, say using Google Wallet, um, Google Wallet behaves differently in Japan versus the United States. So if you're using a US based phone with Google Wallet on it, it won't work with the system in Japan. But if you're using an iOS device, you're lucky that way. So that's one thing to bring up there. So, yep, that is definitely helpful. So the other thing here, let me just pull this up here. That's one of the travel tips that I learned when I went. One of the other ones here, I'm going to try and pull up the YouTube video for it here because I made my own content about this. I'm hoping this pulls up the. Let me go. Still looking here. Here we go. These videos are a few years old now, but I watched these a bunch when I went. See if I can get these all to play.
How to use 7-bank ATMs. If you run out of cash while traveling, 7-Eleven stores also have 7-bank ATMs. You can use your credit card to make a withdrawal in Japanese yen.
Or PIN debit. PIN debit's better.
10 types of credit cards are accepted, including Visa and MasterCard. The ATM is easy to use. First, insert your card into the 7-bank ATM. You will see a language option screen. Choose your preferred language and follow the on-screen guidance. Once finished with your transaction, don't forget to take your cash, credit card, and receipt. Across Japan, there are over 25,000 7-bank ATMs, and you can use them at any 7-Eleven store. 7-Eleven not only meets your shopping needs in Japan, but also helps you exchange currency.
So, as a matter of fact, going to Japan, the best place to get money out in cash for those situations where you do need cash is going to be 7-Eleven, because not all the other ATMs are going to accept your foreign issues. Okay, good to see you, NCAP. Good luck with that, good sir. But yeah, the 7-Eleven ATM, that's a good way to get local cash going. I'm just looking for other videos from this particular channel because I know this is coming from the official 7-Eleven in Japan. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, yeah, good luck with the swatting cap. So this is the other trick I learned, and I talked very highly about this, that you can buy food and drinks at 7-Eleven too. Now, I wouldn't do this all the time, but for example, let's play this one.
How to buy hot snacks. Look by the cash register at 7-Eleven to find fried chicken, pork franks, and other hot snacks. Just ask at the register if you would like to buy a hot snack. Even if you don't know the item's name, you can order by pointing it out to the cashier. Rest assured that allergens, the type of meat used in products, and other details are listed in English and Japanese on each product's price tag.
They'll even tell you what country it comes from. They add more. This is a special hot dish in the winter.
How to buy oden. Traditional Japanese oden is also a popular item at 7-Eleven. Look next to the register to find oden. Point to the types of oden you would like to order, and the cashier will place them in a container. It's quite all right to order just one piece of oden.
Okay, there's that. We've watched that one. This one is the only one we haven't watched on this particular playlist.
How to buy and make 7 Cafe. For hot coffee, pay at the register and receive a cup. Tell the cashier the size you would like. There are 2 sizes, regular and large. Cups for iced coffee are in the frozen food freezer. Take a cup from the freezer and pay for it at the register. There are also 2 sizes for iced coffee, regular and large. After you have paid for your cup, insert it in the 7 Cafe machine next to the register. Once your cup is inserted, the machine will scan it and the start button will light up. After you push the button, your coffee will start to pour.
Now, I
When
don't
done
drink a lot of
pouring, you can
coffee,
add
so I
milk
didn't
and
really
sugar
do
if you
this.
like. The menu also includes lattes as well. You can buy a latte the same way that you buy coffee.
Okay. Suffice it to say, you can use the 7-Eleven to buy just about anything that your heart will desire. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It makes it easier to travel there. But the other thing too, though, that is really very helpful about it, though, is that it's a good place to go for a budget. You're not necessarily looking for food that's memorable, but you're looking for something that might fill you up and keep you going. So, for example, I had lots of food at other places, but I supplemented that by eating at the convenience stores in Japan. So that really did help a lot with with my travel. So as a matter of fact, here, so as a matter of fact, here, um, let's pull up the Wikipedia page for this. Of course, 7-Eleven got started in, in Dallas and or in Irving in 1927, so around Dallas. But if you scroll down here, there's a bunch to go over in its history. So let's see what we have here. It's going through all the different countries: Philippines, Malaysia, Laos, Japan. 7-Eleven Japan. Let's take a look at this article just to get more insights and information. 7-Eleven Japan Co. Limited was opened in 1973. It was the first store was opened in 1974, and the reason why it was opened is because there was a businessman that was traveling in America with a bus full of other Japanese businessmen, and he came across an American 7-Eleven somewhere in the Midwest or somewhere like that. I don't know exactly where, but he was amazed by this whole idea or this concept for a store and thought it would do well in Japan. So he went to Dallas and got an agreement drawn up to open up a Japanese 7-Eleven. So suffice it to say, the Japanese 7-Eleven had an explosion of growth through the 70s and the 80s. And when the American 7-Eleven fell in hard times in the early 90s, the American 7-Eleven was actually acquired by the Japanese 7-Eleven. So that's part of the reason why, some of the reasons why 7-Eleven in Japan is so successful, though, is because of the unique packaging of food. So one thing that you're starting to see now in 7-Eleven in America is you're starting to see that 7-Eleven in America is starting to do maybe not the same kind of food items as Japan because it's a different palate, but they're starting to do the same kind of packaging of food and drinks. Um, so hope the jury's still out. So hopefully they will get better at that. But that was something where 7-Eleven, and then of course you had Family Mart that did well. Family Mart was an American company too, but there is no Family Marts in America. And Lawson was an American company, but there is no more Lawsons in America either. But they're all doing pretty well in Japan. They all kind of have their own unique spin on what they do. Um, but it's definitely a unique take on the convenience store. It's a different kind of mentality, different kind of clientele, obviously, than what you see at convenience stores in America. But after traveling, I just find it hard to go to a convenience store in America and enjoy the experience. Buying like, beef and bean burritos and slipperies just doesn't hold up when you've had fruit sandwiches and tuna salad, um, and egg salad sandwiches and rice balls with tuna mayonnaise in them. So it's kind of disappointing after experiencing Japan the first time. Um, but yeah, that's one thing that I would say about that. Now the other thing though, and the first time I went to Japan, I'm just gonna pull this up here. I'm just pivoting to other things here. Okay, bringing this up right now. I would not buy this anymore because the price has been spiked since October. Um, but Japan's Rail Pass, which these give you the adult tickets plus the days of validity. That's days straight through. So ordinary class is 336. Green class is first class for 471. That's only for 7 days. But I don't see the point of that unless you're going to be riding the train somewhere every day um, of that 7 day period. And that's a little too much train travel for me because I would prefer to actually slow down and spend some time in a different place and enjoy it for a few days. So I think the prices have overinflated. Before that, when I bought it the first time, I think the green car was probably more like 350, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Um, but yeah, that's for the entire country, but I definitely would not buy it again. So let's take a look at the other passes here. And I certainly would not activate it if you're going to spend if you're going to start out spend an entire week in Tokyo before you go to other parts of the country. Don't activate it until you plan to go because that takes away from your days of validity. So the Japan Rail Company in the 80s had a split up here. So that's why you have the whole country, of course, and then you have it broken up by region. So you have the Hokkaido Pass, or JR Hokkaido, JR Central. Well, first it goes JR Hokkaido, JR East, JR Central, which is where Nagoya is, um, JR West, which is where Kyoto and Osaka and Kobe are. And then you have JR Shizuoka, and which is this blue island over here, and then JR Kishu. So you might find some deals if you're going to focus in on one particular region of the country that you're going to. But I wouldn't buy the entire rail pass at this point in time, just because of the price that you're spending for it. In fact, when I booked my rail ticket, I booked a single way rail ticket from Shin Osaka Station to Tokyo Station, and I did go for the Nozomi line, which is the express line, which you historically could not do on the rail pass because it was the express line. So I booked a green car on the Nozomi, and it only cost me like $142 to do that one way. And I find if you're only going to take one trip on it, to only go one way, it's not worth it. So what I did when I went to Japan is I flew open jaws. So I did not start in Tokyo this time. I started in Osaka this time. Spent around a week in the Osaka area, and then took the train to Tokyo and capped it off with another week in Tokyo. But yes, that way I would only have to spend a one-way train ticket uh, on my journey, so that way I wasn't spending too much on my travel plans. So let me know if this information is helpful at all or anything like that. I definitely want to be helpful for anyone else that has an interest in travel. If I'm going too fast, of course, you can always come back and watch it. But let me know if I'm going too fast at all, or if you're getting information out of what I'm saying here, hopefully. Um, in the meantime, yeah, thank you. It is good to know that. It is good for it is good to know a lot of these things before you go, especially if you're going to be especially if you are going to be going, because you want to maximize your time there. Um, you want to make the most out of every dollar that you spend to get there. The most expensive parts about going to Japan, in my experience, are the flying there and the accommodations. Once you get there, the uh, the least expensive parts about Japan are the culinary experiences, the eating, and the ground transportation. But the biggest hurdle that you have to cover is actually getting there, getting the flight across the Pacific Ocean, and figuring out where you're gonna lay your head once you're there. So let's just move on here. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. I do have other content, of course, that I'm going to be bringing out since I got back, but I want to be able to share everything from my experiences going And I'll keep this live stream up for people that are planning to go to Japan so that they can take a look at it too and get information. Obviously, things do change over time, but some things do stay the same. So let's take a look here at hotels. Got music on. Let me share the screen again. Okay, I shut down the music for right now. Yeah, this is the hotel I've stayed at 2 times. There's a bunch of them all over because it's a chain hotel. And they call them a business class hotel. And usually the rooms are pretty small. So let me pull up. Since I'm no longer staying there, I can actually show this now. Give me just one moment here. I'll show you the right thing here. That's why. Okay, so this was the particular hotel that I stayed at here. So let me bring up. So this is obviously reviews. But it's not very expensive. Let's take a look at the reviews from people. Most of them are pretty favorable here. Sometimes you get some that are not. Most of them are pretty favorable. But you get the idea here, hopefully. So these are pictures. That's like a double room because it has two beds, and that's like a spot because it has a bath. Japanese people love their baths. They love to be able to soak. They're usually split by gender. And this was probably more like the size of the room that I had. So it was a business class hotel. So it's very basic. Had the bed there, had the TV over there, had a little desk area, and then had a little fridge for the food and drinks from the convenience store. So it's a good home base. It isn't like the most extravagant place to be. I mean, the lobby looked pretty extravagant, but the rooms are nice. They're comfortable, but they aren't the most extravagant. And if you're looking for a budget option and you don't plan on being in the room that much, as a matter of fact, I didn't even eat breakfast there because I went to the convenience store all the time. They had laundry facilities there. Um, but yeah, it was a pretty nice room. A little tiny bathroom in there with the Japanese bidet function. And this is a Japanese style pillow, which is kind of unique. Um, can't quite sleep on that. But yeah, you get the idea. It's a it's a very basic it's a very basic place to stay though. And that was the one trick to hotels like this in Japan though are that you have a card, for key card access, right? And you push it up against you don't insert it into a slot. You hold it up against the reader on the door for the door to unlock. Um, and then you actually have to, once you get in, there's a slot next to the door. So in order to actually get the power on and in order to save money, um, oh yeah, I understand. Good to know. Hopefully your phone is working out okay. Um, but yeah, once you, once you get used, once you, so once you get into the room, you have to put the card down in the slot in order to power on the electronics. So even if I left my computer plugged in when I went away to go run to the convenience store or do something else, um, I'd take my card with me, obviously, so I could get back in. And then obviously it wouldn't charge or do anything while I was away. So that's something to be mindful of is if you want something to charge, the only thing that stays powered on when you're away is the refrigerator, just about. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for uh, is that. And it isn't just that particular hotel brand. There are other hotel brands that are Japanese too that operate on very much the same principles. It's a tiny little room. It's basic. It's comfortable. It isn't really too extravagant. It it meets your needs. You know, you have access to a bathroom, toilet, and a shower, and you can sleep. Um, and then you can go out and take take the town by take the town by its ears, if you know what I mean. Yep, exactly. The key card thing. You remember the key card thing specifically? That's a very common feature. You see it in European hotels too, but it got started in Japan. But if you ever go over to Europe and you see that in Europe too, that's why. is because of the fact that it is it's a budget saving tip for the hotel so that they're not spending a bunch of money on their electric costs when you're not actually in the room. And most of the time, now I wasn't the earliest riser. I'll be honest about that. In fact, I made a point of trying to steer clear of the rush hour traffic. But most of the time, I was actually out by about 10 a.m. and I didn't get back till about an early night, maybe 8 p.m., maybe a little later, more like 10. But that's just me and my preferences. Um, but you can actually go and you can actually go and it's just like a good place to go in that particular area in Wayno. That was actually the perfect place to stay because you were centrally located. You could get just about anywhere in the city reasonably quickly. So it was a perfect place to actually stay for that reason. Um, Other thing though, I've noticed here, let me just see if I can pull this up. There are a few things here to be mindful of. Um, you talked about Japan being very clean. Um, and the reason why that is, Japan is obviously very, very clean by default. But part of that is um, Japan doesn't have many public trash cans anymore. And part of that came from this was a big deal. I remember the story broke in 1995 when I was in high school. There was a Tokyo subway sarin attack, uh, which did uh, which did end up um, it did end up killing people sadly or unaliving people just because of the way sarin gas is behaves. So, and it was done by a Japanese cult. Um, and there were obviously reasons for that, but that is the reason why you do not see many public trash cans in the country, even though it is very clean. So will, most of the people are used to taking their trash with them until they get home or until they do find a trash can to dispose of it. For sure. Yeah, it was very, 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 very sad. Um, but yeah, one of the ramifications of that, since they were putting the gas in trash cans, was they took out a whole bunch of trash cans all over the place to prevent that particular situation from happening again. But that's why Japan doesn't have many public trash cans. You have to carry your waste with you until you can find one. So get used to that. That's why I always carry a backpack with me just because it becomes a black hole for anything I don't want to carry with my hands at that particular point in time. So I find that is very, very useful for me, um, and for the way I travel. Now, I did do some, you saw obviously some of the videos that I did. Let me just refresh my screen here. Hang on just one moment here. So first of all, I wanted to share this with you all. Obviously, I was in Japan, so my channel has grown a fair amount. So I do appreciate you all coming and subscribing because you've definitely helped the channel grow. So as a matter of fact, if we look at the analytics of everything here, in the past month or so, and you see my timeline of history here of when I've actually put videos and live streams and content up on this channel, you see where the views spike, and then of course this is the watch time. This is the subscribers gained. So this is all thanks to all you all out there, because if it wasn't for you in the audience that are watching this content, um, it wouldn't be anywhere where it is. So I definitely do appreciate that for sure. Um, Let me just pull up some demographic information here uh, about the audience in general. Um, so there still is, now look at this here, watch time in the last 28 days, about 29.4 subscribed and 78.6 are not. So hopefully that grows. Obviously, most of our viewers are from the United States, with Canada, the United Kingdom coming second and third. And obviously, Japan is fourth because that's the country I focused on most at this particular point in time. Let me just change one more thing here. In fact, this would probably help if I started sharing this again. I thought I was sharing that. Anyways, but yeah, let's go back to the dashboard here. But yeah, we're up to 65 subs right now, so that's doing pretty good. I want to get up to 100 within the next month. So I do appreciate you all for looking at that. This is the views. This is what I was pointing out. These are the videos, and this is when the views spike, and this is when the watch hours spike, and when the subscriber count spikes or loses in that particular situation there. So as a matter of fact here, there's the channel right there in all its glory. And I've tried to be kind of imaginative with the titles and the thumbnails. I am getting better at this particular thing. So obviously there were a lot of videos that I filmed for. I haven't had a chance to publish everything yet. So I am still working on that. But obviously I had a lot of fun with this one. Here on the right-hand side, we should have a can of something that looks familiar to everybody, Red Bull. And look, no Braille. And on the left, we have a can of what's called a lemon sour in a can. And that has Braille on it. So the proof is in the booze. Thanks for watching. So this was one. Go to this longer video here. This is one I made. Obviously, I never expect anyone to help me at all in my travels. I'm used to doing everything independently, and Japan is a place where I can reasonably travel anywhere independently. But this happened to me multiple times, but this was about the only time I caught it on film. Let's fast forward to where I'm getting off here. This is on the Yamanote line, which is the Circle Line in Tokyo. This was all filmed with my GoPro, which was strapped up here on my head. Notice they play distinct sounds for every train when they arrive.
Sorry? Where do you want to go? May I help you? Okay. I'll pick one. I'm just going to Hachiko exit. Exit? Yeah. Which exit? The Hachiko exit. What? The Hachiko exit. Hachiko. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll help you. This way? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Please take my hand. Okay. Yeah.
No worries. I never expect this from anyone when I travel.
Will you meet someone else? No. The Hachiko very crowded. Yes. Okay. That's fine. Okay.
This guy was actually very helpful.
Third service to the Takasaki line will soon arrive on track number 3. For your safety, please stand behind the yellow line. For the stop, to the building.
Should I walk more slowly? Okay. Yeah, this is okay? Yeah, this is fine. Are you living in Tokyo? No, just traveling. Okay. I make travel videos for YouTube. So we have to use downstairs steps.
Okay.
It's downstairs.
Yeah, I can take the rail. That's fine.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fine. I would have probably figured this out eventually. I would have been looking for the signage in English, but I would have figured this out eventually. Just like any other train system in the country, or anywhere else for that matter, there are ads all over the place. But notice how Japanese people, they have their lanes and they mark it on the ground there. for where you want to go.
Okay. Okay. Oh,
In
this way.
fact,
Okay.
that's the
Okay.
turnstile
Going out here. Yeah.
where I tap my phone to get out.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I
One
see. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Notice I tapped it there, and usually, yeah, it gave me a blue light which said I was clear.
Okay. This is near the Hachiko station.
Okay.
Near Hachiko.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. What's your name?
My name is Hiro.
Okay. I'm Rich.
Thank you.
My channel,
Thank you.
just in case you want to know, is called Blind Man Travels
Oh.
on YouTube. That's why I'm
Okay.
filming right now. I wanted to show people what it's like to ride the train.
Okay. Shall I take you near Hachiko? Okay.
No, I think I can manage from here.
Okay.
It's just a straight shot.
Yeah.
right?
Thank you.
Okay. There you got to.
Goodbye.
That's thank you in Japanese. But I'm going to rewind it back to the beginning of the video, just because I wanted to show you how tightly integrated everything is. These are all train services done by different companies, right? I accidentally went the wrong way at first. So that's a service where you can actually go downstairs. That's actually from a different company. And if you look at the markings there on the wall, I actually had to get closer to the wall to see it. But if you look at the markings on the wall where it has the arrow pointing down, it tells you what lines you can catch there. So I knew that I goofed. So yeah, for sure. Now then, and this is actually how clever and well designed the system is here, because it's run by more than one company. But once I got here and I saw which lines it was and had a downward facing arrow, I knew I did not want to go there. So I turned around.
It's over this way.
And I said, oh, this way, because I figured it out. And yeah, this is just a normal street. In fact, those look like normal shops and restaurants and the like there. That's a Lawson's right there, where that milk jar is.
It's over this way.
So yeah, right where that milk jar is, that's the sign for Lawson's, a convenience store chain. Then I went this way because I saw there was another opening over here, and I saw that there were people going this way. I was waiting just to make sure that I was clear because I was at a crosswalk here. This is pretty much a driverless street, but I wanted to make sure before I went. I go in here and notice that sign with that flickering light up there. That just so happens to be another convenience store chain called Next Day. And over here are some lockers you can rent. See, that's, or sorry, not Next Day, but New Days. My mistake. But that's another convenience store chain. It isn't as well known as the big three, but that's just half a block away from the Lawson. And then I realized he had to go in here.
You should.
There are these machines here again, where you could buy Suica cards or buy paper tickets. Yep. But yeah, there's the church tile and it said JR. So I knew that was where I wanted to go. Because the line I was running was also administered by the Japan Rail instead of the private company. So I swiped my card there, and that's when I got into the system. So when you actually go into the system, you actually swipe and then you swipe again when you go out. And when you transfer, you actually have to swipe in where you're transferring to. And no worries. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was because I knew I'd made the mistake as to where I was going for sure. But yeah, definitely that was the scenario where I was in the wrong place for sure. So that being that though, I think I've covered everything that I have to cover, unless I remember something else. I've covered some Japanese history, some cultural information, information about going to Japan, practical travel tips and tricks, understanding the currency, understanding how to get around, um, and interacting obviously with local people, even if they don't speak English. You'll find that they will usually bend over to help you. Now, the one thing that is very common is Japanese people will not tell you what they really think all the time. The whole idea of the public face. This is the face I put up for the public, and this is what I show. This is what I keep private to myself. And that's in every culture, but in East Asia, that's more pronounced than in other regions of the world for sure. But yeah, that is something that I have. So now I just want to throw it open a little bit, see if I got any questions. If I've got any questions here that I can answer about Japan or about travel planning or anything like that, because I think I've covered all the big subjects um, that that I think I could cover. Been at this for about a little bit over an hour and 45 minutes, so I don't want to take too long on this, obviously, but I do want to give you a chance to ask questions if you have some. Um, so if you have some, feel free to ask away, and I'll see what I can find out on the fly. Um, Otherwise, though, we'll just speak off the cuff. So, some other things, though, that you should know about Japan is don't sleep on the desserts. Japan is well known for the sushi and the curry, but don't sleep on the desserts because especially if you have a sweet tooth, because the desserts can be really yummy there, like the bread and the cakes can be really yummy there. I think Japan learned some of the best traditions from the French, and then followed up on that. So I think that is something that Japan has learned is how to do. When they learn how to do something, they make it their own in their own unique way. So don't sleep on the desserts when you go over there if you have a sweet tooth, because it isn't all mochi ice cream like what you see at sushi shops in America. Mochi ice cream is fun. Oh yeah, bread making. I don't know. There's probably some places where you can watch bread making. Uh, there where the kitchen is, where you can actually see the kitchen. I'm not familiar with that, but there are some really good bakeries there for sure. But yeah, there are some really good bakeries. One of my favorite things is a that I got there is called a curry pan. So I like Japanese style curry, and pan is the Japanese word for bread because it came from the Portuguese word for bread because the Portuguese were the first Europeans that came into contact with Japan. So basically, think of it like a jelly donut. Instead of stuffed with jelly, it's actually stuffed with curry on the inside. So it's more savory than it is sweet, but it's really delicious, for sure. But anyways, I hope that answers your questions. Unless anybody else has anything else that they want to bring up or ask real quick here. Otherwise, if not, I'll go ahead and wind up the live stream since we've been at this one for a little while. Um, so that's a good question. I'll bring that up real quick since you did ask here. Let me find my own video that I made about it. This isn't a very long video. So we'll just watch this video since it's not very long, at least the first part.
Hey everybody, Blind Man Travels here, and today we are going to have lunch at one of the best kept secrets in Japan, which is called Coco Curry. It is a chain, but if you're not familiar with Japan, you're not going to know about this wonderful dish. So there's the sign right there. There's the sign on the side of the building. It's curry served over rice, usually with different meats or vegetables, and it does have vegetarian options as well. So we are going to enjoy ourselves here.
You can get curry
And
noodles,
I'm
but
going
I
to
got the more
take you along
traditional way.
for
Japanese
the
curry.
experience, and hope you all enjoy. Okay, everybody, Blind Man Travels again, and I've been seated and I've placed my order.
Look, another tablet.
Here, but this is the tablet which the orders can be placed on, and you can change your language. So we shall see. Since we are in Japan, I decided to order the seafood curry with some extra toppings. So I'll just wait for it. And I also ordered a highball, so we will enjoy that as well.
So that dish was maybe about, the one I got was maybe about $10 tops, taking into consideration the currency exchange.
So
The drink was more,
we'll be
obviously.
back when that order is received by me. Okay, my order has arrived, so I didn't realize this until someone pointed it out to me, but that's where the silverware is.
It's a little tray under the tablet.
With a soft-boiled egg. So that'll be delicious. So I'm going to put the egg on it right now and mix it in with the curry.
So there's the egg.
Now, Japanese curry is not necessarily as spicy as. Oh, look at that yolk. This is going to be wonderful.
Egg yolk moment there.
Curry is not as spicy as curry from India or Thailand, but it's very, very soothing.
It's more like a gravy than the other kinds of curry.
This also has cheese in it too. This is a crab cream croquette.
That was fried, basically.
So, itadakimasu.
Itadakimasu basically translates as I humbly receive.
Highball, which is usually made from soju with something like lemon or other flavoring in there.
That's a little bit more sophisticated than a beer.
But definitely try this in.
Shrimp. Yeah. It depends.
Very nice.
If it's 10, it might be from a Thai type of curry, though. Notice that's really thick.
And I'm enjoying this very hearty meal.
In fact, Japanese curry is probably
Doing the drinking options as well.
Japanese curry is probably the
So I'll
one
let you know
dish
how it ends.
that I've gotten reasonably good at doing
All in
myself.
all, that was a very good lunch.
But the biggest thing is, so I'll leave it there. But the biggest thing is Japanese style curry is based upon, it comes from two filters there. Let me just make sure here. But yeah, to go back and answer your question there, as far as the differences are concerned between the curry types, um, the history is that in the 1890s, Japan's navy was building up. And the most preeminent navy at the time was the British Navy. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to emulate the British Navy, and the British Navy was feeding curry to all its men because the British Navy had India as one of its colonies at the time. So what ended up happening is Japan started doing the same thing, but instead of just being uh, Indian curry through a British filter, what ended up happening, it was Japanese curry through a British filter of Indian curry. So that's why it's different. That's why it's thicker. It doesn't really concentrate on spice unless you want it to be spicy, but it tends to be more soothing. Think of it more like a Japanese version of macaroni and cheese. That's the best way to explain it. Is it's more like a macaroni and cheese. But if you could actually if you could steam some rice and get some what I do is if you there's you can buy prepackaged things of curry roux. The most common one is the golden curry. And what you do is you start with your meat. So you cut up your meat, whether it be usually beef or pork or what have you. Um, and you saute it with garlic, and then you mix in usually something like beef stock and the typical vegetables are onions, carrots, and potatoes. Although you could put in other things in there if you really wanted to, uh, depending upon what you have in your fridge at the time that you're trying to get rid of. Um, but that's most typical is onion, carrots, and potatoes. Put those in there and then bring it down to a nice simmer with the stock. And then you start by mixing in. What I would do is I would put in some Greek yogurt with honey in the yogurt, and then I would put in Worcestershire sauce and ketchup, um, and then I would put in a little teeny bit of soy, not a lot, just a little teeny bit of soy, and then I'd put in the curry roux in there and mix it in and let it simmer and get all the curry roux worked in there. So as a matter of fact, let me pull it up here. Okay, this is you should hopefully see that. But yeah, it's that's the biggest well-known company is called Golden Curry, and it's blocks like that right there, and you drop it in. Now the best thing to do with it is to let it break or is to let it this these are other variations of it from different companies. Vermont curry is pretty good too. Um, but it basically is prepackaged like that, and you're supposed to drop it in and let it simmer in with the broth and the vegetables and the meat, and then you serve it over steamed rice. So that is a very soothing meal, especially when it's cold outside, because it can be very warming. So it was one of my favorite things to cook this past winter, and probably one of the few Japanese dishes I could really do reasonably well. But yeah, that should hopefully give you an idea. You can buy these things. You can buy them at. I'm sure you can buy them at Walmart. You're probably better off picking them up from Amazon and having them shipped to you if you really want to try it. But it's definitely worth enjoying. I had it with a nice skirt steak. So yes, I really like it. So hopefully you'll try it and like it yourself. Um, it's not as good as obviously going to Japan and eating the curry there. Um, but definitely enjoy it. Some of the other things you can do, of course, like I said, is you can also put cheese into it, which just adds a little bit more to it, especially like string cheese or mozzarella. It doesn't even have to be the most expensive stuff. Um, you can put in you can put in some cheese in there, or you can wait until you plate it and put some cheese in it to mix it in. Um, it just depends upon how you want to prepare it. Um, but yeah, it's one of the best kept secrets about Japan is the curry. As wonderful as the udon and the ramen and the sushi and the onigiri is, I think that Japanese curry is one of the best kept secrets about the country because it's an adaptation of food from the West through Japanese eyes. So it's absolutely a great dish to have. So yes, I agree. It is wonderful. It definitely is one of those things to taste um, for yourself. Um, so definitely enjoy that, hopefully. So what we'll do then is we've been at it for a couple of hours, unless you have any other questions to my wonderful audience. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Again, I appreciate you all for watching live, or if you're not watching live, watching the playback of this video later. I couldn't do this channel without your support. So I do appreciate you all for coming and taking the time to watch the videos and comment on the videos and engage with the content because that lets me know what you like, obviously, number one. But I am doing this channel more obviously for me, but I do want to share it with other people for sure. Um, my pleasure. I'm glad I could share um, my knowledge. I'm not going to claim that I'm the end all know all about Japan, and obviously I do want to go to other countries. I have been to other countries, but I do want to go and do more travels and share that experience as well. Because I think traveling is one of the things that actually is a good equalizer among people. Um, doesn't matter where you come from in the world. But just travel with an open mind and appreciate everything about a culture. Just because you come from one place doesn't mean everything is done better in your country. Just keep an open mind to that, and I think that'll actually help you be a really good traveler. Otherwise, though, like I said, I'll go ahead and wrap up this video. So I do appreciate you all joining me. This channel would not be where it is without your support. So I thank you all for watching and wish you all a pleasant evening.